All right, guys, welcome to our last therapist training program module. This has been an 11-week journey that we have gone together. Hopefully, the intent behind this training is again to share at least an introduction to most of the content that we have covered. In terms of what does it take to become a better therapist? What does the starting kind of look like, when it comes to dealing with the therapeutic work? Then moving on to the different modalities that are there and available that you can achieve mastery in, right? Like having a really good understanding of what it will kind of entail for you, whether you're choosing to become a humanistic therapist or a CBT therapist or a Gestalt therapist. Every person is unique in their personality, and thus the style that would be best used by them would be very unique to them also. And one thing is for sure that every client that will come your way is meant to come your way. So what that means is that you're meant to give them something. And if you are very authentic with who you are and what is the style that you work with and how you have benefited from the journey to come up with this style, that you will be able to deliver the best form of therapy. Therapy is all about creating that relationship. It is all about helping the client develop or get close to their own personal authenticity, and that's something that we have really aimed to kind of focus on throughout the therapist training program, you know. So this is sort of today is just meant to be a conclusion. It's meant to be an ending to the resource, which is the therapist training program, designed to give all the different elements to it. That's one. And also, I hope to give you a little bit of an introduction into what you could be doing moving forward, right? In terms of the current climate and culture of mental health, where is it going? In terms of from whatever understanding I have. Secondly, in terms of where do you think trainings are going to go? What kind of trainings are needed in Pakistan particularly, and what are the options that you have available? And just I wish you guys all the best as you guys move forward in this journey. I wanted to kind of do before starting out, I wanted to do a little bit of a quick summary of the content that we have covered. I really believe that in the content that we have covered, the intention has always been to provide as much completion of the intention is that there's no way I could have covered topics such as humanistic in a day, or for example even in 2 days. These each of these are meant to be long courses that you're kind of designed to learn over the course of a few years when you're doing your master's degree. And I've heard that there is a very kind of strong practical gap. I know that humanistic is a module that is done in 3 months, and it integrates person-centered and gestalt, and it integrates a lot of the dynamics into it. And thus, I do feel like this is something that, we can kind of focus on and really kind of expand. So in the first day, we started off the therapist training program with the module of burnout, right? The reason why burnout is so important is because the amount of money and the amount of energy that you're putting into this, you want a career out of it. You do not want to do this as a part-time gig. You do not want to do this with the uncertainty that this is going to be a financially successful endeavor or not. You want to have this confidence that you can support your livelihood and have financial independence from this field. And I want to guarantee you this, that you can do that, right? You can absolutely develop financial independence from this field while maintaining ethical service practices and integrity as well, right? And I wanna just be very clear about what it takes. What it takes is trust in yourself. What it takes is honesty, that if you are just starting off your career as a therapist, you're not going to be making that much money, right? Because you don't have the skill set, or you don't have the knowledge to understand what does it take to build a therapeutic relationship, the case variety, the work that you've done, the personal development stuff that's there. That is all supposed to happen in the first 2 to 3 years of your careers, right? Like for example, जब आप किसी भी नौकरी को शुरू करते हो, तो आपको 50,000 रुपए की नौकरी मिलती है, 60,000 रुपए की नौकरी मिलती है, राइट? आप स्टार्टिंग वहां से करते हो. It's similar to this, right? When you're starting off, you're really kind of really banking on having the challenges that any new upcoming therapist will have. And then you continue to keep doing the work, right? You continue to learn, you continue to understand what does it take to become better at this craft, right? And in that process is exhausting, right? That process is frustrating, that process is irritating, that process will exhaust you, right? And again, that's one of the main reasons why burnout is such an important thing that you have to manage. I remember, so burnout primarily is it's the resistance to change that comes in, right? Like burnout ka opposite hota hai burn in. So we do a whole burnout training. So burnout basically comes from the mindset of machines, right? That machines, after they continue to work a lot, they burn out. Human beings are not machines, right? Human beings with an organism with too many different moving parts, right? As a therapist, you're not just a therapist just ko diagnose karna hota hai. You're also a therapist that gets impacted by the work. You're also a therapist that has a family that is impacting them. You have a therapist who has responsibility and financial burdens, and you have a relationship to every one of these topics. And so what happens is that one of these topics can be sometimes difficult to accept or going through a certain change. And sometimes those changes are not easy to accept, and you wanna find it, you might find it resisting the change. That friction caused by resistance that's the burnout, right? Like why? And so even if you take a break, even for momentarily, you might have that ease that it's not in front of you, it's not something that's kind of there. But as soon as you come back into the same situation, that kind of overall exhaustion kind of comes back in, right? And so that's something that I've noticed you have to take care of first. Really start building up your resources. Really, no, like the first thing a therapist should do, and if I believe that the first thing a university should do is teach therapists how to self-care, right? I think that's the number one most important thing a university or a student counselor or anyone should be able to kind of do is teach self-care as if it's the decorum, as if it's the most important thing that you have to do in your arsenal is learn how to self-care. And I can guarantee that that is the most important thing. When you have that capacity built in, it sucks when you pay for a training and don't use it, right? Like for example, it really sucks if you pay for a training and you don't use it, it will suck, right? And so I want to be very honest. If you have enough self-care, you will pay for the training, you will go through the friction of what that training is causing because change causes friction, and then actually learn how to use it, and you will have the most outcome from that whole process as well. So self-care was the stuff that we talked about in quite a lot of detail, right? It's the start of a therapeutic journey. Then we went into burnout, right? Oh, sorry, boundaries, right? Then we went into boundaries, and boundaries are very important, right? So there's internal boundaries, there's protection and containment, there's physical boundaries, there's sexual boundaries, and it's so important for us to have healthy boundaries. In Pakistan, in a collectivistic culture, we're not taught boundaries, right? Like, for example, if there's a house, one room, and 10 people are staying in that house, siblings are staying in that house, you're not going to have too much boundaries, right? Like it's the you're not going to learn how to have good boundaries, right? And so it's very important for us to be able to protect ourselves in this profession. Self-protection is so important, right? Because what happens is that when it comes to our financial boundaries, they get skewed. When it comes to our time boundaries, they get skewed. When it comes to our physical relationship boundaries, they get skewed. It's important for us to have very clear boundaries, not just in terms of protecting ourselves and telling people stop, but also stopping ourselves and containing ourselves as well. And it's such an important thing to kind of do, because when you have a client, right, that is saying, give me more time, you can feel really comfortable in saying no. But when it's sometimes your own urge, "Okay, I wish I could give this client a bit more time. I wish I could give this client a little extra session." You want to be able to have the capacity to say no to yourself also, right? It's not just about being able to say no to someone else. It's also about being able to say no to yourself, right? And so there's protection and there's containment in all aspects of your life. And you'll be surprised that once boundaries start to become better, once boundaries start to become more healthier, which means that they are not just walls, no, 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 or no boundaries, yes, 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 yes. It's a functionality that means that you are able to evaluate a situation and then decide what is the right kind of boundary in this. That means that, for example, I remember I was telling my example that I don't like going to my ghar walon ki dawat, right? So and I say I have all the therapeutic language I need, right? So I can take it, I'm setting good boundaries by not going to ghar walon ki dawat. But I have to also understand that my boundaries have to be functional. And so what that means is that there has to be a time where I have to go to my ghar walon ki dawat, whether I want to or not, because that is also part of me having healthy boundaries, that I do say yes sometimes because it's important for me to keep those relationships. Same thing with clients also. You need, that's the number two part, right? That you need to have these two things very much in alignment before you kind of start. And I hope you guys kind of watch those early videos again, to just really get a better understanding of, okay, what am I doing for my self-care? Why am I doing this work? What are my boundaries, right? Because if you're deciding to become a therapist and you're not yet sure whether you want to do your work or not, don't waste your time, right? Because no matter what, if you want to make a financial career out of this, you have to do all of this work. You have to be very honest with yourself. You have to have boundaries. Otherwise, if you're doing this because part-time job, then you're really gonna have to evaluate whether this is the right field for you or this is the right kind of work for you. Okay. Once we have this preset setup done, the initial kind of work done, you are value aligned, you have enough self-care tools, you've looked at your boundaries, and you've really kind of gotten an understanding of who you are as a person. What do you bring to the table? Resolved, unresolved does not matter, but at least the awareness is there that this is who you bring to the what you bring to the table in your therapeutic relationship with either a client or a family. Okay. So then what you do is you decide, right? Okay, based on this, what is really something that I have to kind of need, right? What are the skills that I need that becomes my first step in creating a better therapeutic outcome for my client, right? The whole intention is what creates a better therapeutic outcome. And so the first step becomes, what kind of technical knowledge do I have, right? What do I align with? Am I a humanistic therapist, right? Do I prefer CBT? Do I prefer Gestalt? Right? There are others as well, which we did not have the time to go over, such as transactional analysis, right? REBT, right? There's so many different modalities and interventions, but I do feel that one of the most important ones that you need in order to build the initial therapeutic relationship is a person-centered approach. You need an approach that really does have those biases of unconditional positive regard, empathy, and congruence. That is such an important thing, right? That when you're sitting in front of them, no matter whether you're doing this as a CBT therapy, or whether you're doing humanistic therapy, or whether you're doing any kind of therapeutic work, are you judging the client, right? Are you judging them? Are you saying to them, okay, how could she have done that? What? I would never. तूने पता है इसके साथ क्या हुआ? You know what the client told me today? Like, I have so many therapists that come out of the session and you go into like, do you know what the client said to me today? Do you know what happened in their life? Do you know what happened? It's judgment. It's pure judgment. Anytime you come out of the session and you feel overwhelmed by that content that the client has given, because you're like, you're saying to them, oh, do you know what he said? Do you know what she said? पता है ऐसा भी होता है. That's your containment issues, right? That is you kind of recognizing something that is above your window of tolerance, right? And so it's so important to have that person-centered approach. And can I be very honest? It is a lot more than what is written in the books. Unconditional positive regard is really hard, right? It's not that easy, right? And you have to be the one that decides that if my client is not deciding to be okay, or if my client is not deciding to come out of freeze, am I okay with that? Do I still unconditionally care? And am I unconditionally comfortable with my client, even if they don't decide to do the work? Or am I saying, okay, how can you not decide to do the work? Look at how much damage it's causing to your kids. Look at how much damage it's causing to your family. Like, aren't you afraid of this? Aren't you ashamed by this? Catch yourself, right? Whatever approach you do, you catch yourself. Congruence. I told my client to write down gratitude list, but deep down inside, I have this kind of emptiness and hunger. That's why I can't. Like, I really can't tell my clients to write down gratitude lists because that's the thing that I'm struggling with the most. But I will tell them to exercise because I do that regularly and it does help me regulate. I will tell them to do breath work because I know that congruently when I say that, I believe that it does work. Whether it'll work for you or not, we will only find out once you try it. Empathy, congruence, unconditional positive regard. We've gone into all of those things in much more detail, but the humanistic side of it is really, really equipped in kind of helping build that intimacy, helping build that vulnerability. You'll be surprised that because of the parda culture and because of the man woman chapter, because of all of those things, shame particularly, there's so much like avoidance of eye contact, right? There's so much avoidance of like, safety in the relationship, right? And it could even be mother-daughter relationship. It could either be like father-son relationship. But generally, we have a very strong culture of shame, right? And when you're working as a humanistic therapist or just as a therapist, you have to be able to look through the person. You have to be able to see them, see their hurt, see their wounding, and be able to tolerate that within yourself without the urge to kind of conflict or confined and all of those things. So that's such an important aspect of the initial work that we did. And I'm really hoping that as I'm kind of giving a consolidation of all the different topics that we have covered, I'm really hoping that you guys find your own relevant points for this from those topics, right? Because these are certain topic relevant points which I really, really believe that if you want to become a good therapist, if you want to have a financial career, sort these things out, right? Read a book on it, figure out your meditation practice, figure out your regulation practice, figure out your self-care practice. You cannot sustain a career without these things. And I really want you guys to sustain a career. All those people who have signed up for the therapist training program, all those people who have watched this on YouTube, there is too much supply and not enough good therapists, right? Everyone needs therapy and they're not enough good therapists, right? Because systemically, the trainings haven't been that great, right? Systemically, the information has been, where is your research, right? When are you giving me your viva? When are you giving me your thesis, right? आप मुझे बताएं कि diagnose करने के लिए उसको क्या क्या criteria पूरा करना होता है. That has nothing to do with therapy, right? That has nothing to do with counseling, right? That has to do with like looking at a body and looking at an anatomy. And if you're working from that pathogenic mind points of view, you're doing that. That's the training primarily, right? So really want you guys to become more self-aware about what it takes to actually help people, even if it's helping people coming out of trauma. CBT was something that I've been really kind of going into. It's the relationship between the thought and the behavior and emotions. And if you're working on developing your CBT practice, get epic at Socratic questioning, right? Get really good at it. Socratic questioning, you guys should never give statements to the client until and unless it's in the form of paraphrasing. You should always ask a question, right? Your craft is your voice and your words, right? How well are you able to articulate your observation that is visible to you, right? So that is your craft. And my request for you guys is Socratic questioning is the thing. Is there any book on it? So there's a book on, so Socratic questioning is really good. I also use the work, I'm glad I'm back. Apologies, the thing got like off. But so what I'm trying to say is that Socratic questioning is very important. So, and another form of that is called motivational interviewing. So another form of motivational interviewing, and I'm just finishing up Mel Robbins' book, Let Them. And in the Mel Robbins book, she in the end has this whole section on Socratic questioning. Technically, she calls it motivational interviewing. She's got an amazing section on it. And I recommend everyone just reading that book. And that book, Let Them, will help you with your boundaries, will help you with unconditional positive regard, and it'll also help you with Socratic questioning, right? Because those are some of the things that she's very actively kind of mentioned in those books. Gestalt. Gestalt is dynamic, right? And so I really hope that therapists get out of their chair, right? It's the room that is yours, not just your chair, right? So use your room. अगर आपको color करवाना है client को, go up, stand up, tell them, I'm just going to stand up and go get the coloring. Stand up, get the color, get the collage, bring other elements into your work, bring creativity into your work. अगर आपको feel होता है ना कि यार अच्छा, I feel like client बात तो अपने father के बारे में कर रहा है, but deep down inside असली में हमें जो है ना इसके मदर के लिए हमें कुछ करना होगा experiential, right? So and you feel like there's an instinct within you that says, let's get out of the chair, let's move around, let's actually go and draw a picture of your mother. Let's actually, the stuff that we're talking about, our emotions, let's actually put it in a box somewhere. Here's the box on the side. Do it. Trust yourself, right? Gestalt is all about the here and now. अगर आपको इस मोमेंट के अंदर फील होता है कि आपको जो है वो क्लाइंट से ये करवाना चाहिए या इनसे एटलीस्ट पूछना चाहिए इस चीज के बारे में, ट्रस्ट योरसेल्फ, right? There's nothing more important than what you will learn from. You will fail or you will pass, right? But whatever outcome comes, don't deprive yourself from the creativity that you can give to the moment, right? And I highly recommend you guys doing that whenever that's possible. Okay. When we've gone through the sort of like the Gestalt primary aspect of it, then we kind of moved into a lot of the more, so we move after the Gestalt, we moved into so we moved into psychodynamic, right? And so what happened is that after psychodynamic was all about the depth of the work, right? You've done your self-care part, you learned how to you learned the relationship building modalities. Now you want to be able to case conceptualize. Kaam kya hai? Why did the client really come to me? Why, of all the people would have gone through or he would have gone through, why me? Right? How does that give me information? And this is where you get to really know about transference and countertransference. This is where you really get to know about, okay, what am I the object for? So object relations, right? Like, okay, so if I am saying that I will not be able to waiver the paid cancellation and the client is getting angry, I've already told the client beforehand that when we start working together, that if you do not make me aware that you're gonna not come to the session prior to 24 hours, it will be a full paid cancellation. And the client is getting upset for me keeping my own boundaries. What is really happening here? What is really getting played out? Is this the first time that the client has gone through or experiencing someone set the boundary, or did people set the boundaries much more intensely beforehand? Right. And the client felt rejected. What is the information here? Right. And so when you use yourself, because you've done all that initial work, because you use yourself as an object in the therapeutic relationship, you get to better understand the client. We in this particular video, I really request you guys to kind of watch it in much more detail, because you have to see how your own pieces kind of play into this. Transference is what the client will project onto you. Counter transference is what will come into you as a response of that projection. And there's a chance that you can have enactments as well. That means that the therapist, if it's not attuned, will repeat the same behavior that will traumatize the client. And you don't want that. You don't want that. If you're doing this training and if you're doing this work, that means that there's no way you want to get hurt or you want to hurt a client, right? And so all of those things are so important for you guys to kind of understand that, transference, there's some really. So at least I'm really glad that the day the internet issues are happening, it's on the last day, because, but good, right? Because otherwise it would have been they would have been really awful if all my internet issues would be happening throughout my online session. So yeah, that's one aspect of it. We were just talking about transference and counter transference as my internet is kind of disconnecting, and I just want to say that it happens, right? So so the focus on transference and counter transference is important in helping case conceptualize. I remember we talked about that the therapist could be working on anger for as long as they need to, but if they haven't really addressed their own grief, and that's the part that they have to work on, you need to kind of really start seeing those things. So then that's the counter transference part. I particularly think that that day, even though it's a little bit more off the cuff, and you guys must have seen that I have this kind of style of working in which it's usually off the cuff. That video will really help you in case conceptualizing, right? And if you put your client on that map, we drew a map, right? We drew a therapist, we drew a client, we drew the bubbles in terms of the splits, and we wrote everything down. If you put that concept in your client work, I'm really hoping you get to kind of see not just yourself, but the client, and also what exactly needs to be resolved. And then you utilize your regulation, and then you utilize the work that you've done to and get to hopefully get to that sense of resolution. Okay. After that, we did developmental immaturity, right? And developmental immaturity is Pia Melody's brainchild. Basically, she kind of developed that process. Developmental immaturity really says that all these unmet needs are traumas that happened in early childhood, right? So for example, if a person is dishonest, if the person has enmeshment issues, if the person has intensity issues, if the person has relational esteem, all of that is because the client is suffering from wounding that has happened in early childhood, right? And because of the wounding that has happened in early childhood, the person loses their original kind of power, right? Which is that they're valuable, they're vulnerable, they're imperfect, they're dependent, and they're spontaneous, right? And that is something that is innate in all of us, right? And I really wanna, we hire therapists coming in, right? And we hire new kind of employees on a basis, and there's such a fear of vulnerability, seeing the mistakes. There's such a fear of, oh my God, how am I gonna show my authentic self, right? Because there is a disconnect from the value, the vulnerability, the dependency, the imperfection, and the spontaneity. And you have all of these things which get separated from us in childhood. Another thing particularly that I feel is of value in that video is the two children that we're working with. We're not working with one, right? There's an inner child, which is the 8-year-old, which is called the wounded child. And then there's a 4-year-old called the wounded child, and then an 8-year-old to a 7-year-old that's the adaptive child, right? And the adaptive child is the adultified child that is pretending to be an adult, right? Jabke in actuality, that is the child that a lot of our defenses, a lot of our anger, a lot of our fears, mistrust, all of that stuff takes place there. And that child particularly is not a big fan of the wounded child. And you as an adult, like any parent, has to show that you have the resources to be trusted by that child. You have to show it. Whenever you do that inner child work with anyone, I would highly recommend you identifying both of them, right? And identifying how they are together and how you are with both of them, right? Because you could really love the 4-year-old that doesn't talk back, and not the 8-year-old that has learned how to defend itself, but it's the 8-year-old that needs to do the work and has to be protected by you, right? Another thing that is so important in inner child work is that never talk to the therapist, client's child directly. Always let the adult client talk to the child. Never be that person that does it directly, because you're not going to be there when the child might need you, but the client will always be there. And that is very important, right? So those are all the elements there. Okay. As we move forward, as we're completing the content, and as we're moving forward after developmental immaturity, we went into addiction. Addiction is such an important part of the work that any therapist would do in Pakistan, particularly, whether it's chemical addiction or non-chemical addiction. Addiction covers a vast spectrum. I can guarantee you that working with addiction has helped me work with resistance better. It's helped me improve my family therapy. It's helped me improve my intervention cases, right? So addiction work really helps you. What it does is really helps you not pathologize, because what happens is that addiction traditionally has been seen as a illness or a disease or all of that sorts. In actuality, addiction is a substitute for connection. And when you start doing addiction work, you will by default be introduced to Paul B and all the attachment work that kind of comes along with it. And those are some of the things that I feel are so important for that to kind of take place. Addiction also is so vast because of the complexities that come along with the nature of addiction work, especially in a collectivistic culture in Pakistan. you need to know family therapy, or at least family orientation, right? Because in addiction work, you really need to understand that it's the family that gets involved. An addict is an environmental impact, right? Addiction is an environmental impact. What that means is that if my son is an addict, then I am, as a father, also impacted by that information. My wife would be impacted by this. Siblings would be impacted by that information, right? It's a whole family shame that kind of gets introduced, and so all of that is what we have to kind of cater for and be able to treat and adapt as well. You know, then we kind of moving into grief. Grief was Grief is like, and you can see, right, like all the topics that were covered, right? I feel it's so like necessary, right? Like, how can you do therapy without understanding grief work? And if I was to be very honest, I could still do like 7 more topics, such as like alag se motivational interviewing, alag se transactional analysis, alag se like working on case conceptualizing, log writing. There's so many different topics that you could still kind of cover, which I feel are so important to do. But I think that's the best part, right? That the journey never really ends, right? And so I really want to introduce that. I hope you guys have all, at least from the training itself, been introduced to the space of the value of doing your own grief work, right? There's such a value in doing your own grief work, right? Grief will keep you stuck. Grief has 5 stages. It has denial, it has anger, it has bargaining, it has sadness, it has depression, it has finally meaning making. Grief will keep you stuck, right? It'll keep you stuck in a place that you don't want to move away from. And like we mentioned in the training as well, grief has a memory association with it also. You don't want to let go of the grief because you don't want to let go of the memory, right? And it could be something that is protecting you or serving you, or something that you have lost. Any one of those things, I think, again, as a therapist, your proficiency in working with grief is so important, because usually clients come in when they have gone through a sudden change. They've suddenly lost someone, they suddenly lost themselves, they suddenly lost their boundaries. Any one of those things will impact. And the therapist needs to know when to give space, when to kind of move through, right? And it's so important. And again, you have to allow your body to have the space to grieve something. If your body does not have the space to grieve, then your clients' bodies don't have the space to grieve. You're not going to model it for them. And that is a very important aspect of the work, to really model it for them in terms of what can be done and how can we move forward in terms of working through grief. As a therapist, bereavement is such an important aspect of working with the training. Do you offer some elaborating trainings on grief? I remember I did, like, it was like what, 6 months ago or something. I did this very elaborate experiential grief training, which had to do with and again, my intention was to do like a more elaborate grief experiential work. That means therapists can kind of come in and actually do that work for themselves. However, there are some really good trainings and places available where you can get quite a lot of detailed trainings on grief. And I would invite you guys to kind of look at it up online. And if there's something that comes up for us in the center as well, you guys always have our social media spaces, Instagram, LinkedIn, where we will be uploading any kind of trainings that will be coming up in the future. And grief would be something that I would really like to do as well. I like to do it from a more of an experiential side also, but also in a theoretical side, it would be really good. I have this book. I forgot. I don't know if I can show it to you guys. Yeah, here it is. I just got this book. Oh my God, come on. Like, it's called I'm Not a Morning Person. It's a really good book. Morning Person, right? So I'm Not a Morning Person. It's just my new book on grief. I just got it, right? So it's an amazing book. It gives a lot of good details about grief as well. It's an updated book about grief information and the science and the neuroscience behind grief. Plus, it's written very kind of well, right? It's written with the intensity of no one likes to go through it, right? So it has that preset bias that no one likes to go through it. But how can you help someone move through grief? It's really well written. So if anyone wants more information about this book is, I would highly recommend it as well. So grief was a huge part of our work, and like if I was to be very honest, those people who've gotten the training, right? You have the manual with you as well for the therapist training program. I highly recommend that anytime you have something transitioning happen in your life, use the feelings letter. You really use the feelings letter. Like I recently just did it again for a transition that was happening in my life, and it's important to have that resource within you to actively use the feelings letter. And again, the feelings letter would be read out to someone and then kind of torn apart, just to kind of take away whatever you need to take away with it. So that's the grief aspect of it. And then finally, we moved into the TRE aspect of it, right? So after the grief, we moved into TRE. TRE was an important part of our training as well. So what happened with TRE particularly is all the TRE, I hope. I remember I was watching the TRE video back, and I saw the audio. I was like, oh my God, the audio is horrible. That's one of the reasons why I tried to kind of put a subtitle in it, but even the subtitles were like horrible. So I was really thinking about what am I going to do next, right? After this training kind of ends. And I'm like I'll do a more detailed I'll do a more detailed YouTube, Instagram live training, particularly similar, same format as this for TRE, right? So we do a lot more in-depth TRE sessions on YouTube, particularly. We'll do live TRE sessions for people, and we can have volunteers that can kind of come up as well. And the intention behind that is because I think TRE was such an important, strong modality for me personally. Like it really changed my life because it helped me see how the body itself can heal, right? It like every one of us has a tremor. Every one of us has the capacity within our body to release stored stress from our body. And it's such an innate, natural experience that we have. It's just about learning how to listen to our body. It's learning how to accept our body, learning how to integrate within our body. So all of those things are so important. So I'm really hoping that as the training kind of progresses, as your own personal training progresses, you guys find modalities, somatic modalities such as TRE, that can either help you with your own personal work as well, and moving forward, it will help you with your client work also, right? So those are certain elements that I feel it can kind of come in, right? Is TRE uncomfortable in the start? So TRE will cause no pain, no aches, nothing, right? And especially if you do it on your own, then you don't even have to worry about कि कोई देख रहा है, right? Like all of that stuff gets sorted as well. So TRE will really, it has the best part about TRE that it has no aches and no pains. And if it is causing aches and pains, something is going off, right? Either the exercise was done incorrectly or stuff like that. And I highly recommend, we're going to be creating a TRE directory on our list. And so do get in touch with, if you ever feel like you want to find certified TRE providers, we're going to be up. So we're in the active process of updating our website. And so as soon as we update the website, in that we'll have a TRE directory. TRE directory is going to be for all the people who are certified. And so those people who are certified see their certification, राइट, क्योंकि टीआरई हर किसी की बॉडी के अंदर होता है, हर कोई करवा सकता है, यानी करवा सकता है, कर सकता है. It is so important to see the certification of a provider, because if you are learning from someone, आपको उसकी certification देखनी जरूरी है, right? So we'll have a directory made, we'll put our certificates up. So we'll have a certificates for the people who have completed it. And then we'll have a list for people who are trainees currently in the program for completion. And so whenever they will complete, we will kind of upload it on that. So the intention is again for it to become really open and clear for everyone, right? That in terms of as a modality, I do think it's important. And I think it's one of the, other than EMDR, I think TRE is another great modality that is available. EMDR works with primarily eye movement and it has that kind of therapeutic aspect to it. TRE is something that's very open. And again, TRE is something that we're doing in August. August is hopefully when we'll be starting up the training. So registrations are open. Anyone who wants to become a TRE provider on an international level is again invited to come in. It's an expensive training though, right? It covers it's almost around $2,000 for a 2-year long training. So even though it's divided and planned, it has that. Okay. So that is a very brief overview of some of the content that we have completed in the trainings. Number one. Does that mean that you're done? Not at all. right? As a therapist, what that means is this should have been taught basic, right? That's what that means. Like, this isn't, this stuff is prerequisites, right? Like, इस level तक तो आना आपका मतलब मेरे नजरिए में, it's just my opinion. You guys can have a different opinion, right? इतना तो बस must है, राइट लाइक इतना तो मस्त है कि आपको सेल्फ केयर करना आता है, आपको बाउंड्रीज देखने आते हैं, आपको जो है वो फॉर एग्जांपल ह्यूमनिस्टिक सीबीटी और ये सब चीजों के बारे में थोड़ा सा प्रोफिशिएंसी पता है, केस कंसेप्चुलाइज आप कर सकते हैं, ग्रीव कर सकते हैं क्लाइंट को जब उसकी काम खत्म हो जाता है, और बेसिकली आपको एडिक्शन का अगर कोई क्लाइंट आता है तो उसके बारे में पता है ये, और आपने एक अलग से एक सोमैटिक थेरेपी का टूल, या चलो वो उसको हटा भी दो, दैट दैट इज बेसिक. In my opinion, it's basic. This any therapist should know, right? Because this shouldn't be the advanced stuff, right? Advanced stuff is everything that you're going to start doing from today onwards. That's the advanced stuff, right? Like this prerequisite stuff, you give it 2 years, you give it 1 year, you're going to be a great therapist. Even if you just stayed at this level and you're like, I don't want to do more trainings and I don't want to invest in more trainings, good enough. You will be able to take a lot of the clients through this based on this work if you do it congruently, right? And you have a supervisor, obviously, but I'm really hoping that everyone has a supervisor, right? That you can't do your work without a supervisor. Plus, if you ever apply abroad, you have to make sure that you have your supervised hours, right? So you will need, for example, if you apply for a supervision diploma or something like that, you will need to show your supervised hours. So you make sure that as a therapist, you're doing each and every single session that you're doing, you're getting it supervised, you're keeping it signed, and you're giving it to giving it to them. You will never know when you will need it, right? So it's so important for you to kind of always make sure that your paperwork is complete and all of those elements are in play. So what comes up next, right? What would I highly recommend you guys? First of all, I would recommend you guys not to sign up for more trainings. Number one, I would recommend slow it down, right? Awareness has a high, right? Like ek dafa, when you're in this cycle of self-awareness, it has a chaska to it, right? What that means is that you get all these eureka light bulb moments, right? And you're getting those light bulb moments and you're enjoying those light bulb moments. And as soon as you do those light bulb moments, you're like, I want more, I want more, I want more. Yeah, trust me when I say that I signed up for every single training for the last for the early 5 years of my career because I could not get enough of the self-awareness, 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 self-awareness. Self-awareness is a full-blown high. Enjoy it, but slow it down so that you can integrate what you're learning. Learning is different, and then knowledge and understanding may difference है बहुत बड़ा है, right? There's a huge difference between knowledge and understanding. You will know everything, but doing it is what matters. And so I highly recommend you guys that there is a strong difference between knowledge and understanding. So at this stage right now where you're at, slow down, right? Any training that you sign up for, you do it for 1 year, right? So for example, if you're signing up for a trauma-informed training, if you're signing up for becoming a certified therapist training, or if you're signing up for an IFS training, whatever training you're signing up for, like 1 year, you have to give it 1 year. You have to make sure that आपने जो पैसे invest किए हैं अपनी training के अंदर, आपने उसको वसूल किया, right? Self-awareness at a point sucks also. Yeah, agreed, right? So it sucks, but it still is a high, right? So sometimes you still don't like the self-awareness that is coming your way, but then you continue to kind of move on and move forward with it, right? So that's something that you will see kind of happen. So self-awareness does suck, but I highly recommend continuing with it. So number one, after you done with this training, if you sign up for another training, each training you sign up for, you give it a year. Just make sure that you don't sign up for 4 trainings in 1 year. You sign up for 1 training in 1 year. Number one, right? You make sure that whatever training you sign up for, you practice it, right? You have to practice it. You make sure that it's not just about filling up a void that I want to get better. Do I have enough qualifications? And that you take therapy for, right? if you've just completed all of these things, you are good enough if you have all of these basics down. So increasing your competency level or increasing a specialization is for three reasons. Number one, career upkeep, right? You wanna increase, like अगर डॉक्टर होता है, डॉक्टर एक स्पेशलिस्ट बनता है, वो अपने करियर को आगे बढ़ा रहा होता है. You are doing it from that lens कि आप अपने करियर को आगे बढ़ा रहे हो, which means that the training that you have done should ideally pay you more also. Yeah, it is some kind of addiction, yes. It's called a high, right? Like awareness high. So because what happens is that when you find something about yourself, dopamine gets released that you have accomplished something, and dopamine itself creates the high, it creates the addictive cycle as well, right? So it can be very addictive. So number one, right? So number one is that you have to make sure कि अगर आपने कोई training इस्तेमाल की है या साइन अप किया है, उसका आपको आउटकम मिला या नहीं मिला. Not just in terms of personal awareness, but also in terms of financial awareness, in terms of your client workload. Right? And you could have a bust training as well. You could be like, यार ये training मैंने की थी, इसका कोई फायदा नहीं हुआ, मैंने इसको मतलब 6-7 महीने दे दिए, it didn't turn out well for me. That's fine. That's no problem. You know, but you tried and you made sure that you did your best and you did it with that congruence. Because if your trainings aren't giving you your financial returns, then you are not fully doing this for the right reasons. It's not a career, it's a hobby. Right? You want a career out of this. What that means is कि आपने अगर कोई ट्रेनिंग की, आपको उसका फायदा मिलना चाहिए. फाइनेंशियल, क्लाइंट को मिलना चाहिए, आपकी अपनी सेल्फ अवेयरनेस रेगुलेशन की तरफ मिलना चाहिए. All of those things should be available. That's two. Three, right? When we are kind of looking for training, you want to make sure that you are understanding what are the gaps that are available in the market currently as well. You want to be very mindful for that, right? You do not want to do, like, I remember, and I just want to say this. So when I started this whole training chapter, right? And obviously trainings were expensive, the ones that I brought in, because they were international, right? So जनरली जो ट्रेनिंग्स अवेलेबल थी वो यूनिवर्सिटीज की ट्रेनिंग होती थी 2000 रुपए की, राइट? यूनिवर्सिटीज की ट्रेनिंग होती थी 2000 रुपए की ट्रेनिंग होती थी, और उसमें वो बंदा लेक्चर से स्लाइड्स पढ़ा रहा होता था. बेसिकली वो जो सीबीटी की स्लाइड्स थे वही पढ़ रहे होते थे. एंड आई रिमेम्बर कि जो भी ट्रेनिंग्स थी वो बेसिकली रिजेक्ट स्लाइड्स फॉर द यूनिवर्सिटी. दोज वर द बेसिक ट्रेनिंग आउटकम्स दैट यू कुड गेट. Stuff that is not available in the market is what? In Pakistan, what is the main thing that you're required to know? Family therapy का एक बहुत बड़ा gap है. Do family therapy training, right? ये huge family therapy का gap है. Addiction specialization का gap है. Family therapy यहाँ पे training मिलती है locally. आहिस्ता आहिस्ता I think systemic family therapy is coming in. A lot of people are bringing international trainings, but there are some really good ones, right? So systemic family therapy is something that I would highly recommend. If you're looking for a family therapy training, that's something that's there. Then I would suggest, like, if 1 year, right? Then I would suggest if you're going for training, do addiction training. Right? Addiction training is really good. It really helps. यहाँ पे पाकिस्तान में Colombo plan training करवाता है ICAP की, right? And I'm not affiliated with any of these trainings. I'm just sharing it with you so that anyone who feels like they want to improve their career moving forward, these are the different roadmaps that you can take. ICAP की ट्रेनिंग होती है. ICAP की ट्रेनिंग का फायदा ये है कि ये एक इंटरनेशनली सर्टिफाइड ट्रेनिंग है. अगेन, इंटरनेशनल एसोसिएशन फॉर एडिक्शन प्रोफेशनल्स इज द होल टाइटल फॉर इट. इसके लेवल्स भी होते हैं, प्लस ये यूएनओडीसी से कनेक्टेड है, सो यूनाइटेड नेशंस डेवलपमेंट समथिंग से कनेक्टेड है ये. सो इट्स अ रियली गुड community. It's an international community, plus it's a credible training also. So I would highly recommend that one. That's there. Trauma, again, is something that I feel is very important for people to know. This is my specialization. This is something that the center really specializes in. I would trust, sort of like, we're having the becoming a trauma-informed therapist training that we have started. We're already like a month almost into it. So that's something that we're going into. Then you have the trainings that are available at the center are going to be the TRE training. That's about becoming a somatic therapist. I think that's a really good training to do as well. Helps you add the different elements that are needed for the person, right? For example, वो आप body को integrate कर रहे हो trauma healing के अंदर non-verbally. So big fan of that one. Another one that is there is EMDR, right? EMDR is another great training that I feel is available in Pakistan. at an international standard level as well. It helps. It's a really effective modality. I'm not really sure about the quality of the training recently, but I've heard really good things. We used to do EMDR training. EMDR training is another great modality as well. So there's enough to learn. Like agar aap bolo, so it's not like these things are cheap, but it's not like trainings Pakistan में available नहीं है. अच्छी क्वालिटी की ट्रेनिंग्स जो आपको आपके करियर को ग्रो करने में हेल्प करे अवेलेबल हैं. ये ट्रेनिंग्स कहीं नहीं जाने वाली. Right? These guys aren't going to go anywhere. I hope these guys are not going to go anywhere. So अगर आप 2 साल बाद भी ट्रेनिंग साइन अप करोगे ना, okay, no wrong, nothing wrong. आज ही आज सब बैठ के नहीं करना है. Remember the awareness high. If you do the family therapy training, then you're going to do no training other than the family therapy training for 1 year. TRE 1 year. EMDR 1 year, right? Each becoming a trauma informed therapist, you give it a year. एक दफा integrate हो जाए, please move forward. Never stay still. Always have a training in your radar. NLP is a good one also. NLP is also something that I feel is really beneficial as well. So if you want to upkeep and integrate the life aspects of it in the coach, that's something that's there. Please introduce somatic therapy. So somatic therapy and family therapy as well, right? So somatic therapy is something that we already have introduced, such as TRE. That's a somatic therapy modality that we already have. The training is going to be happening in August. Family therapy is something that we've done, but we've done it from a trauma-informed family lens. Systemic family therapy we haven't done. And obviously there's IFS that's available as well. That's currently happening also in Pakistan. These are some really good trainers and some really good trainings that are available in Pakistan, right? And so you have a good pipeline, right? Like you have a really good pipeline of people who are doing trainings, doing the work, getting all of them sorted. So I highly recommend do not rush, right? They will be there even if it wasn't in this batch. You will get to the next batch and hopefully you will get all of those trainings kind of sorted. Okay. So now we have covered a lot of the content history. We've covered sort of like the trainings that should be available, how you should, the mindset that you could have moving forward, right? And then I want to move it to licensing and AI, right? Those are the other two things that I feel like are so important in Pakistan, particularly. Number one, licensing, right? And I have been very privileged as because of the owner of an organization, I get invited to all of these kind of meetings, right? Between mental health professionals and affiliations and all of that stuff, because there's a very strong movement happening in terms of licensing in Pakistan, right? And so, and there's a lot of people who are at a government level, at a state level, at a private level, and at a NGO level. The scheme is doing really good work specifically, on this, right? So there's a lot of work happening. So the way they are introducing it is that the government will be licensing the organizations, and the organizations will be licensing the therapists, right? That's the direction that they're moving into, which means that the SOPs, hiring protocols, all of those things, they're going to be maintained by the organization. And then you have the government that will keep a check and balance on the organization so that there is a complaints procedure that's being activated. And this will include universities and this will include all the other stakeholders as well. What does that mean for a private practitioner? For a private practitioner, what that means is that you get your paperwork in order, right? You have to make sure that your sessions that you're doing are logged, right? Those logs are supervised, number one. Number two, right? That your university degree and all that other paperwork stuff is sorted as well. It's so important because if and whenever this stuff happens, you want to be ready for it. There is generally a doom and gloom and हमारी काम तैयार नहीं होने वाली and all of that stuff, but that is not from what I'm hearing. What I'm hearing is that the government, specifically on a national level, is really actively looking for a mental health bill, right? And that mental health bill will be specifically for the practitioners primarily, right? And it will include all the different aspects of it: psychiatry, psychology, counseling. ये सारी चीजें include होने वाली है. So those are things. So never work without a supervisor and work towards getting all your paperwork kind of started. Okay. Number 4 is AI. AI is your biggest competitor. right? Number one reason why ChatGPT is used around the world is therapy. A lot of people are using ChatGPT for their personal therapy. I have, and I'm sure some of you guys have also, right? कि मैं इस situation में क्या करना चाहिए मुझे, right? मैं ये हूँ, किस situation में मुझे क्या करना चाहिए, right? Everyone has used ChatGPT for therapy. And so what that means is it's going to happen more, right? A lot more people are going to, what apparently what they're saying is that general therapy, right, will be used or will be eaten up by ChatGPT. राइट सो व्हाट दैट मीन्स इज कि आपका जो मीडियोकर थेरेपिस्ट है या थेरेपिस्ट जो अपने ऊपर काम नहीं करना चाहता या थेरेपिस्ट जो फॉर एग्जांपल is not able to build attunement, is not able to build a relationship, is pathogenic in nature, you can get the chat GPT to diagnose you. You don't have to worry, right? Plus, it'll do it for $20. So it's much more cheaper on a monthly rent. And you can talk to it at any time without the risk of confidentiality breaking. Right. So there's so much content that's available in the space, right? So that's something that you want to be very mindful for. As a practitioner yourself, use ChatGPT to improve your therapeutic effectiveness, in my opinion. Use ChatGPT to improve your therapeutic effectiveness, right? There's a software that I'm trying to develop called Therosaur, right? And the whole intention behind Therosaur is just to kind of bring logs and what do you call it, AI as an assistant to building the therapeutic relationship. You don't have to go for the software. You have ChatGPT घर पे, use it, right? जितना आप अपने आप को effective बनाओगे as a therapist in terms of building your relationship, right? The more you'll be able to have a career of this, right? Because when the time will come, and it's just a matter of time that people will find it much more convenient to just talk to ChatGPT and ask it to be its therapist. So why would people come to actual therapists? Because ChatGPT अब आहिस्ता आहिस्ता उर्दू में बात करना सीख जाएगा. शायद मेरे ख्याल से करता भी already, right? So वो already like आप उसको talk का बटन दबाओगे तो आराम से आपस में एक दूसरे से बात भी कर सकता है. So all of that stuff is there. So what that means is that a lot of the general therapeutic connection stuff is going to be done by AI itself, but then specialists are going to be there that are going to provide treatment, right? You can build attunement, specialization, treatment, and therapeutic effectiveness. That stuff only a human being can do in a relationship, right? Awareness building. What should I do? I feel stuck. I don't feel like doing something. How can I get out of my depression? What should I do right now? That ChatGPT is going to solve, right? But when it comes to trauma processing, family dynamics, recovery from addiction, all of these different aspects of the work that only a human to human connection can resolve, that is what you got to focus on, right? And if you guys really focus on it for the next like 2 years or something and build, because it will take time, right? It will take time for you to be good. It will take time for you to become better, right? So if you guys focus on one particular modality or specialization and use AI as an assistant tool to help you develop your therapeutic effectiveness or your habits अब अभी से डालना शुरू करोगे, so then I think, in Pakistan, particularly as a therapy, we will generally be able to expand. You guys will be able to expand your careers moving forward, right? You guys will be up to date with the latest information. You guys will be specialists, particularly, and you guys will be AI integrated as well. And I think ये है जगह जहाँ पे therapy generally जा रहा है, right? Therapy is going into these kind of places where it's becoming so much more integrated. And in order to keep a career like this, you have to keep up with all the different elements that are coming in before we have a full-blown AI chatbot, right? Like does everything, which will happen very soon also. So I really hoped I wanted to kind of keep this one particularly as a summary of everything. I wanted to kind of share not just sort of like what you guys have already covered in the therapist training program, but also in terms of what should be your next direction be moving forward, going slow, AI integration, making sure you're logged, you're supervised, all of those aspects of it. Moving forward, those people who have done this training, you are now eligible to kind of send in your audio recordings for mock sessions, right? That's something that I would highly recommend you guys if you guys want to opt for the certificate. So what that means is it's a mock session. Primarily what that means is get a friend, try and pretend to do therapy. It's a 20-minute long audio. You just need to send an audio and get feedback for it. The intention behind the audio would be that we will reference point some of the videos in it so that you can receive the feedback about your therapeutic work, and then kind of it just help you improve yourself as well, right? So for example, if you are doing a mock session and you are kind of having a client and they brought something in and you're using humanistic, and there's certain skills such as paraphrasing or all of those things that you can kind of be improved on, that's something that we can kind of share with you. We have a recorded intervention. Yes, if you want to apply for the certificate for the therapist training program, then yes, you can. You can do that. If you want to just keep it to the recordings, that's fine as well, right? So both of those options are there. But in order to be eligible for the therapist training program certificate, a mock session, 20-minute mock session has to be done, and it's just feedback driven, right? So it's just about okay, आप ये बेहतर कर सकते हो, ये बेहतर कर सकते हो, ये बेहतर कर सकते हो. That's pretty much it. That completes our journey together, right? And it's been it was Ramzan was also in it, right? So there was a lot of like Ramzan in it as well. And I think I'll be very honest, I've been very openly surprised by the um overall outcome of this therapist training program. A lot of people have watched us online on YouTube particularly, and I think that's something that I feel has really reached the message out. I am moving forward and kind of recognizing that I would like to do more of these open style trainings, where it's a little bit more available on YouTube for the public as well. So I'm kind of figuring this stuff out. Specifically, the next training that will definitely be happening in much more detail is going to be TRE. And I think the reason is behind two folds. Number one, TRE is something that every person can do on their own. So if I have a few videos about TRE outside, then I do think at least आप खुद से अपना tremor कर सकोगे. That's one aspect of it. The second aspect of it is that for those people who want to learn more about it, we can kind of go into it as well. Right. So I again want to thank you guys for all the time that you guys have shared with me and the trust that you guys have placed in me in providing you with all of this content. I'm looking forward to seeing the people who are here in the next kind of becoming the trauma-informed therapist training. I'm looking forward to that. And I'll hopefully see you guys around. If you ever need to get in touch, please get in touch with the center, Trauma Release and Wellness Center. We have on the YouTube page, we will have all our details. On our Instagram page, we will have all our details. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys at the center only. Take care, guys. All right. Khudafiz. Khudafiz. Khudafiz.